Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Rest, Reset, and Reflect. I will just give a little overview of what this time is, and then we'll kind of dive in. If you're here, give a little shout in the comments, say hi, and also let me know if you can hear me. I will introduce myself. My name is Nyam Adedwaji. I am a sabbatical coach and writer that partners with mid career tech folks to create intuitive, joyful, and creative career breaks. So, whether it is career break that is planned or unplanned, partnering with folks to reclaim the time to set them forward on the next stage of their life and career. So, welcome. And this weekly time is a time where I want to do a couple of things. One is really just give space for folks to reconnect to themselves, reconnect to their breath and their body, because I think we are often going through our days and we don't have the chance to do that. So I typically start out with some kind of just brief grounding meditation. It's typically about 10 to 15 minutes. And then afterwards, have either a conversation with someone or I kind of do my little spiel on a theme related to rest, reclamation, identity alchemy or identity shifts, and career breaks. Today, what I am going to be diving into is this notion of how you can cultivate a sense of inside out abundance on your way to whatever goals or dreams or visions you have. So, an invitation to access feeling good now, not only after you reach a given goal. So, we'll dive into that a little bit later. But for now, I am going to lead us in a grounding meditation. So before getting into the meditation, just wherever you are, um, maybe you're at home, maybe you're at the office. If you can find a space where you feel comfortable, find a space where if possible, if you want it to be private. But the biggest thing is wherever you are to find a position and a place where you feel comfortable. If you are at home and have a little bit more control, seeing how you want to adjust your physical space. Maybe you want to close or lock a door, close blinds. Maybe you want to get in a comfy position. Maybe even if you're like me, you want to light a little candle, have a diffuser, whatever helps you feel comfortable in the space. And once you find that comfortable position, I want to invite you to close your eyes or keep a soft gaze. And as you get into that place, just inviting you to start to notice your breath. There's nothing that you need to do or change. Just notice how it feels moving in and out of your body. Noticing how it feels for the life to be flowing in and through you. And as you reconnect to your breath, as you notice it, I invite you to shift your body in any way that would help you feel more grounded, rooted, or settled. So maybe you want to place your hands on your heart or belly or somewhere else in your body. Maybe you want to gently sway back and forth. tuning into whatever helps you feel more grounded. And as you make those adjustments, inviting you to notice your base or wherever your body is making contact with a surface. So maybe that is your seat in a chair. Maybe it's your feet against the floor. Maybe it's your back against a surface or a couch. As you notice those points of contact, inviting you to see if you can sink deeper into these points of support. How can you let your body be heavy and let these surfaces hold you up? Can you release some of the weight and stress you're carrying, and even think of releasing it into the earth as you become heavy into these surfaces. And as you sink into these surfaces, I invite you to start to notice your heart. Maybe you want to place a hand there if it feels good. And just inviting you to notice what feels alive in this part of you. And maybe there is a way you want to breathe into the space. Maybe there are big or small movements that you want to take around your heart space or chest. Maybe rolling your shoulders back, maybe a twist. Just tuning in to what your heart space is calling for and what feels alive here. And as you tune into that heart space, inviting to gently bring your awareness to your pelvic area. Maybe you breathe into your left hip. Maybe you breathe into your right hip. And then bring your awareness to your center. And inviting you to notice what's present here. Maybe you also here want to make any movements, big or small. Maybe a twist, a stretch. Maybe there's a way of breath that you want to breathe into this part of you. And as you sink deeper into your body and aware of what's present here, inviting you to take any breaths or make any movements that you feel like your body is calling for. And as you do that, I am going to note a question, and I invite you to notice what surfaces inside of you with this question. You don't need to push or force or go searching for an answer. Just notice what comes up. Maybe it's an image, a word, a sound, a song. It could just be a feeling. Just inviting you to notice how your inner world responds to this question. Where is vitality already alive inside of me? Where is vitality already alive inside of me? And as you notice what surfaces in response to that question, if it feels okay for you, you're invited to let whatever surfaces come. If it feels okay, you're even invited to see if you want to move in whatever way that response is coming up for you. You could breathe in a certain way in response to that question. It feels okay. You could even, maybe there's even a sound that's coming up in response to that question. Just seeing if you can notice, even if it's a flutter, a nudge, a thread, where is vitality already alive inside of you? As you hold this experience in response to that noticing of vitality or the signs of life inside of you, I'm going to invite you to anchor into if there's a word, a phrase, an image, a knowing from your response to this question that you want to hold on to and take into the rest of the day. And as you anchor into that, as you hold it inside of you, I invite you to maybe give a word of thanks to your body for the wisdom and insight that it's shown you. Maybe you want to take any movements, big or small, as you start to come back into wherever physical space you are. Maybe you want to breathe and exhale. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Maybe you want to look around your space to reorient. And when you feel ready, welcome back to the world. So I hope that time felt rejuvenating, clarifying, and supportive. As always, if you feel led and want to, you're always welcome to either leave a comment or send me a DM. So, I'm going to transition into this topic of how can you cultivate a sense of what I call inside out abundance. Basically, how can you feel good while you're still in the process towards your goal? Not just, I have XYZ goal, and after I've reached that goal, then I can feel good. I'm going to take a step back, and I posted this earlier this morning. And when we think about goal setting, a lot of the sense behind it is that one, whatever goal or vision or dream we have, that when we reach that, we're going to feel a certain way. And that way that we feel is probably something that maybe like we don't feel right now, and we want to feel. And the second notion that we often have around goal setting is that before we can feel however we want to feel, that we have to accomplish the goal first. And this is not necessarily bad, but I think it kind of carries an assumption that it means that we don't get to experience whatever we want to experience in terms of that feeling until it's reached. And, depending on what it is, it could be something that kind of can take a while. And we also aren't necessarily guaranteed that when we get to XYZ goal, that we actually will have that feeling, right? It's like a hope or an assumption that we'll have that feeling, but it's not necessarily guaranteed, which is why, like, when sometimes people, like, they do achieve a certain goal, but then they realize, like, oh, I don't really feel satisfied or don't feel how I thought I was going to feel. So, and I want to talk about this in particular because I think often in our cultural notion, w- there's a sense that like we always have to like suffer and toil and labor um towards anything of meaning, and that if unless like if our path towards an endeavor does not include that, then it's not really serious or meaningful. And so I want to invite a different perspective and a way to experience our journey towards our goals that invites us to invite in a little more, could be joy, delight, feeling good in the process, and that can actually be a form of fuel for us. I'll share a bit of my story and my experience with this. I by no way means have arrived in terms of this, but I share it because I've found it to be a powerful experience, and it's also how I invite my clients in to their journey of moving towards a life and careers and relationships that they want. In terms of my journey, I short story in terms of for a lot of my adult career, suffered. I'll say suffered a lot in work. Had multiple cycles of burnout. Um, I was allowed to take a 2022 career break for a year when I hit a personal moment of reckoning that if I didn't change something, that I felt like I was just going to keep burning out in jobs until I, died or retired. So that 1 year career break in 2022 was a powerful recalibration for me. And since that time, it's given me a lot of motivation, and it's given me a lot of courage and joy to create the path forward that I wanted for myself in my life and career. So that happened in 2022, and there are many milestones along the way now that we're in February 2026. And I'm by no means at the ideal, end state vision of everything that I want. But I've had, and in particular, last year in 2025, I had the experience of, I know how else to call it except inside out abundant. And prior to that, in most of my adult life, I remember always feeling this like, it's like an insatiable hole inside of me. I don't know if you have also felt that where it's like you can't, it's hard to even name, but you keep feeling like I don't feel satisfied. I need something. And you keep trying to find all these external things to fill it, and it just doesn't feel satisfied. And it's not a great feeling. And last year was the first year that I can remember in my adult life where for this sustained period, even though I hadn't reached my goals of what I wanted for my coaching business, what I wanted for my creative work, what I wanted in my community and relationships, what I wanted in my life in general, I still found myself feeling very present to my life. I found myself feeling nourished inside of myself. I found myself feeling the sense of abundance, and it didn't feel like it was dependent on me necessarily reaching XYZ goals. And I actually found like, oh, I actually feel way more confident in terms of pursuing my goals because I feel this way. And it was a great feeling. It's a really great feeling to feel that way, particularly when I'd been so accustomed to feeling that, like I said, that insatiable hole inside before. And so when I'm inviting this idea of nurturing and cultivating inside out abundance, one, I want to note that this is inspired and is coming from two places. One is from the School of Embodied Arts, which is the coaching certification program that I'm a part of, created by Jenna Ward. And the second is from the late poet and writer and activist Audre Lorde. And if you don't know who Audre Lorde was as I mentioned, poet, writer, activist. And Audre Lorde, in particular, talks about this notion of I'm gonna read the words that she has, but this notion of essentially how like our joy is a form of power. I'm kind of rephrasing what she stated there. Before I share a bit more about what Audre Lorde's words, though, I want to be clear of what I'm not saying. What I'm not saying is that this is about having good vibes only. Like I know there are some people who are like, "Oh, you should only like always feel positive all the time. You should never feel bad feelings. If you feel bad feelings, suppress them, push them away, push them down." And that is definitely not what I'm saying. We are complex beings. We have a spectrum of emotions, feelings, and all of them are needed. And to deny them is, I would say, kind of negate or denying our humanity. So I'm certainly not saying this is about good vibes only and being, kind of fake positive. The other thing I'm not saying is that there aren't very real challenges and difficulties, discomfort and pain that are a part of choosing and creating and building towards a goal, towards a vision, towards a dream, towards a life or career that we want. Anything that is meaningful will involve challenges, whether it's external challenges or internal challenges. So I'm not saying that those things won't be present, and I'm not saying that you pretend those aren't there, or that there's not a value in learning how to be resilient and move through those. What I am saying is that there can be a both and. Just because we haven't yet reached whatever we're moving towards doesn't mean that we don't get to feel good now. And I also invite that when we connect in to those that feeling good or feeling how we want to feel now, that actually fuels us so that we're able to move in and towards that goal from a place of abundance that's coming from inside of us. So when I mentioned Audre Lorde, she wrote an essay called The Uses of the Erotic as Power. And I want to specify that, because I think folks typically, when they think of erotic, they think of it kind of more related to sexual intimacy. But Lord is actually talking about it in a very different way. And it's more similar to how what I was noting, that our joy is a source of power, understanding what motivates us and fuels us. And I'll read how she phrases it. The very word erotic comes from the Greek word eros, the personification of love in all its aspects, born of chaos and personifying creative power and harmony. When I speak of the erotic, then, I speak of it as an assertion of the life force of women, of that creative energy empowered, the knowledge and use of which we are now reclaiming in our language, our history, our dancing, our loving, our work, our lives. So, Lord is talking about the erotic as a form of creative power, talking about that feeling good as a source of nourishment and coherence. And so that's what I mean when I talk about feeling good in the now while we're on the way to our goal. So I want to invite a few things in terms of reflecting of how you can start this practice, right? Because maybe it feels like, well, I don't feel XYZ way. So like how am I supposed to know how to cultivate the feeling? I think though I think there's always like some thread or nugget within us that we can sense. So there are a few things I'd invite welcoming folks to either drop questions or other thoughts. So the first thing that I'd want to offer is that for whatever that vision, that goal, that dream is, drop into and reflect on how do you want to feel? What is it that when you think about that goal, what feeling is it that you want? For me, I'll give an example of for my business, I want to feel freedom. And freedom to me means that I have the agency to set my schedule. I have the empowerment to choose who I do and don't work with. I'm moving from and working from my own kind of organic nature and creativity. So thinking about and reflecting on, yeah, what is it that you are wanting to feel when you reach this goal? And when you reflect on what it is that you're wanting to feel, see if you can tune into, even if it's just like a tiny thread, where do you sense that inside of you? And you could even, I do this sometimes, you could even maybe, is there a way that you can engage your senses in a way that helps you tap into that? So, for example, maybe there is a, I'll use perspective for me, like a certain scent that like helps you connect into a certain emotion. Or maybe there's a, this is something else I often also do. I create playlist for however it is I'm wanting to feel towards a certain goal or vision. Is there a certain song or songs that move and stir up that feeling inside of you? So if you think about, so your process of reflection, right? It doesn't, your reflection on how you want to feel about that, when you reach the end of that goal, it can include like other senses that help you kind of connect into that emotion, right? So using your sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. And typical ways that I use that, I use smell and sound a lot with music. So inviting you to, you can even make it kind of a fun process and think about, you know, creating a playlist and these tactile, visual, sensual elements that help you root into how you want to feel when you reach that goal. And when you have that sense, I want to next invite you into noticing where that sense is already present for you. If you were here for the meditation at the beginning, I asked the question, where is vitality already alive inside of me? And so as you notice how you want to feel, and maybe you use music, maybe you use fragrances, however it resonates for you, to start noticing how you want to feel. See how you can tune into how that's already present inside of you. And as you notice where that's already present inside of you, how can you almost amplify that feeling? How can you help yourself on a regular basis tune in to that feeling? What do you notice about how your energy shifts, how the way you show up shifts, how it feels to move through the challenges as well as the good parts about moving towards your goal? It starts to tune you into the reality that you have the inner resources within you and that you have this well of beautiful feeling and goodness within you that you can draw upon. And it's okay if it doesn't feel like it's this huge, overwhelming thing. It's okay if it feels like a thread, it feels like a nugget, it feels like a seed. How can you take, maybe it's even just 5 minutes daily, to tune into that feeling that you want to feel at the end of reaching your goal or vision, and how that's already showing up inside of you? The last thing that I want to invite is what I call like practicing abundance, and even practicing small abundance. It's really just noticing and savoring the really small things that feel good. So for me, it could be when I step outside. You know, like when you step outside and you feel the wind and that feeling of like where like the air feels delicious. I don't know how else to say it. It just feels really good and opening and freeing. So that type of feeling. When I really have started to really make kind of my morning coffee a ritual that I really love to just sit and enjoy the taste of the coffee, the smell of the coffee, the experience of, the time drinking it and taking my time doing that. Um, Maybe it is experiencing a song, like, instead of kind of multitasking, if you just listen to a song they really love and either just listen to it and soak in to enjoy it, or maybe you do feel led to, like, move to it, dance to it, whatever. But really, it's just a practice of presence. It's a practice of noticing these things that, even in the smallest of ways, make us feel good. And it helps us, like, start to keep tuning into those things and realizing, like, oh, these things are all around me, even if I haven't yet reached the goal that I want to reach. And the final thing that I want to offer is celebrating your wins, right? No matter how small they seem. Because again, I think this is a place where, particularly with social media, you might be working towards a certain goal or a vision or dream, and you see XYZ person maybe has reached what you think you want. And or someone's like, oh, I have done this in XYZ way. For me, I'll say it's like, oh, like this person's made X amount of money in their business. But I'm like, oh, I haven't done that yet, which then makes me feel bad. But one of the coaches I work with has said, something I really appreciate, that the wins and actions compound, right? So sure, it might seem, I'll use a small example from my life. It might seem that I got my first $90 of revenue. There can be like a I think there can be like a temptation to be like, "Oh, like that's not really anything," and to like kind of poo-poo. It's like, looks like I dropped out. But I was saying, in terms of using an example of the small celebrating all the small wins. So, even if it's in the case that I gave, you've made a small amount of revenue, that it can be easy to poo-poo that, but it's significant to recognize what is emerging as you're on the way, to validate that, to celebrate that, to do what I call being your own first witness, and to really savor that win, to really celebrate it, because that also is giving yourself evidence that you are on the way towards your goal. You're showing up, you're being present, and you're doing the work, and the results are showing up. So that's what I'd offer in terms of the practices for how you can cultivate and nurture this sense of what I call inside out abundance. And so inviting you to take what resonates, leave what doesn't resonate behind. Maybe you're watching this live, or maybe you check this out later. As always, feel free to drop a comment, let me know what you think, or send me a DM. Always love to hear how things are landing for folks. And a few things that I want to offer. I am opening up the doors excuse me, for my Soulful Sabbatical Strategy experience. This is a one-on-one, somatically grounded experience for you to envision your career break and for you to come out with a tangible plan. What I want to note with this is that, just as I've talked about in this process, this experience, I want it to be for you just a really fun and playful and exploratory and curious experience for you to tap in and tap back into your creativity, your play, so that you can really envision a career break experience that is what you want, and that is restorative if that's what you need, or is adventurous if that's what you need, is empowering if that's what you need. And that I, in turn, will help you do the heavy lifting of the logistics and the financial part so that we can assess what are your options, what are your risks based on your life and career, based on your current life experience and responsibilities. But I'm really inviting you in to get to play a little bit as you dream. The second thing I want to say about that is I know a lot of folks, your maybe instant feeling is well, sabbatical would be amazing, but it's not for me. Like, I can't do that. Like, and there's just kind of an automatic, well, that's not for me. I can't do that. What I want to say a couple things. So, one is that a sabbatical or career break can take so many different forms. Sure, it can take a year, it can look like taking a year off, it can look like taking 6 months off, but maybe what's accessible to you is maybe you can make a concentrated month off from work, right? Maybe that's what's accessible to you and what you can make happen, and that doesn't require you to leave your current job. Maybe it's not the sabbatical is not for, it's not for next year. Maybe it's something that you are envisioning for the next 5 years, right? So this is in the same way that we think about, say, planning investments, or even as you think about planning your career trajectory, that you're thinking future forward. And then you can start creating a financial plan to lead up to that. Taking a sabbatical doesn't mean I'm saying quit your job, go into your job tomorrow and quit. I would definitely not advise that. You want to have a plan. And there are so many different options available to you that can feel good, that can feel like what you need, that can be a part of your overall strategy for joy and rest. And that doesn't destabilize you and your family. And that doesn't require negating responsibilities. So if you're even a little bit curious about the soulful sabbatical strategy, send me a DM. Happy to hop on a call with what's resonating for you, what you're thinking about, and see if it's possible. With that, my friends, I will close out this time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And like I said, I would love to hear how this landed for you. If you have questions or comments, always feel free to leave a comment, send me a DM. And until then, as I've often say to folks, stay grounded in the ways you can. We're living in the wildest of times, so please stay grounded. Take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and I'll talk to you later.